This is Access Tech Live.
Mark, let's dive into the questions. What's our first one?
Okay, so let's go with Caleb McCready, who writes us by email. He says, I was thinking of buying a GPS tracker for my usually well-behaved dog, who occasionally goes rogue and wanders off. I wonder what that's like. I wonder if anyone had experience of using PitPat, PawFit, or Tractive on an iPhone with VoiceOver, or just any experience if any of these are useful and usable, he writes. You know what, my dog is an indoor dog, Stephen, so she doesn't really run off, and if she does, she tends to get too scared of anything that's not near us, so she comes back. I've never used a tracking device on my dog. Maybe I should. What about you?
Well, you see, this is the first challenge, isn't it? Because what Caleb is talking about there is it accessible with an iPhone with VoiceOver? Now, what that means is the app itself going to work with the inbuilt phone screen reader? Now, this is where it gets tricky because there are so many of these available. And yes, there may be tons available in the market, but are they accessible and are you willing to spend the money to find out, right? That's always the challenge. Now, look, I'm going to be honest. I have been thinking about this a lot because we've just got our new puppy here and we're kind of thinking, okay, we might want to put a tracker on there just in case. And I've been looking into the Apple AirTag. Now, interestingly, Apple say, and are quite clear on this, do not use this with your dog. But actually reading into the details as to why, because I was more interested in the why that's the case, because they all tend to use the same technology, right? Ultimately, it's because Apple don't want your dog getting this off the dog chain and eating it and swallowing it. They don't want to be responsible for that. So ultimately, that's why they're saying don't do it. I would say it is, though, the best way. And you can buy AirTag holders on collars for dogs. So if you do want to do it, it is possible to do. I would not be keen on spending money on something like the names you've mentioned because I just don't know if they're accessible enough. If anyone else does know, though, please do get in touch.
Yeah, it's interesting. My dog is too small. Like, my dog's a Chihuahua, so an AirTag on her collar would be pretty big. Like, I don't think she'd be terribly comfortable with it and might start, as Apple suggests, maybe gnawing at it and maybe swallowing it. The other thing I find interesting about AirTags, while I know that the experience of using them is completely accessible in the apps, is that they need to be passing by other iPhones, right, in order to ping back to the network to give you real-time location. I find that difficult. Even when I track my luggage, Stephen, when I'm traveling, you know, you wait for it to ping a nearby iPhone, and that depends on, like, is the person handling my luggage, do they have an iPhone? Then I'll get an update. But if not, and I can imagine a dog running away, like, you know, imagine they're running through your neighborhood. How quickly are they going to pick up signals from other people's iPhones to get that back to you? So I think that's why some people want to go for, like, the real-time GPS trackers. But there's so many problems there with battery life and everything that goes along with it. So we'll have to dive into this a little bit deeper. But yeah, if somebody out there does have a suggestion and experience with some of those apps in particular, do let us know. William writes in, Stephen, from Connecticut. I love how people are all over the place. He goes, so much to talk about Snapdragon, Intel, and AMD. What computer should I buy today that's going to do the job? I'm just a casual user who does email, browsing, and social media. Dan, what do you think, Stephen?
Well, look, I mean, we could try and answer this question, but I think we should field an expert on this one. I think that's just where we need to call it. I feel like I'm on Millionaire right now. I think we call a friend. So let's hear from Dan Ackerman. He knows his onions when it comes to this stuff. He is from MicroCenter News. We put this question to Dan on your behalf, William.
I'm Dan Ackerman, editor-in-chief of MicroCenter News, and if you're looking for a good mainstream laptop that's going to work for web surfing and email and social media, and maybe just a little bit more, I got some great suggestions for you. I usually start out with the classic MacBook Air. You can't go wrong with that. You can get them down under $1,000 now, easy to use, and it's going to last a long time. If you're interested in checking out some of these newer laptops that have Qualcomm Snapdragon chips in them, there are a bunch of those, and the thing to keep in mind is that you're going to get really good battery life out of them at regular mainstream prices. I think my favorite of the current batch, they're called Copilot Plus PCs, is the Surface laptop from Microsoft that I have right here. And then if you want something a little more traditional in the Intel AMD range, one of my favorite lower cost lines is the IdeaPad from Lenovo, and you can get these in a variety of screen sizes and configurations with Intel chips, AMD chips, regular clamshells with 360-degree hinges. You can get down to around $600 or go more than $1,200, but you get a lot of that Lenovo engineering know-how and really great keyboards in these systems. So if you want to find more about what kind of laptop you should buy, please come check us out at microcenter.news.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. Dan Ackerman there, of course, from MicroCenter News. And I mean, he's a great guy. He knows his stuff. I've got to say, I agree with all of that, of course. Why wouldn't you? But I've got to say, this is a good time to look for deals as well, because one of the things with the Snapdragon processors, yeah, well, exactly, that's right. And when you think about some of the deals that are available since some of the new devices have come along. I, for example, picked up a Samsung Galaxy Book 3 on an amazing sale, literally 50% off the price, because the new Galaxy Book 4 came out. So, great opportunity to get a deal. And of course, if you're talking Mac, yeah, I've got to say, MacBook Air is the most popular Mac for a reason.
I actually spoke to OnePlus yesterday, Stephen, and they have a brand new OnePlus Pad 2 that's out, under $1,000 Canadian, a pretty good option as well. So we'll have to get our hands on that as well. We've got a question here from Mark in Beaconsfield. He spells Mark the right way with a C. I've heard you mention the ADC from Google often with one of your guests. What exactly is that, and what goes on there? Well, Stephen, I mean, we could go on and on about this, but Christopher Patnoe is the head of EMEA accessibility and disability inclusion at Google, and I think he's a little bit more suited to answer this question for us. Let's take a look.
Hi, my name is Christopher, and someone asked, what's the ADC all about? So let me show you. So here in London, this is our first of these new style ADCs, and as you walk in, you get to see things about accessibility, get to see the tools, get to learn about Braille. We've got video games where we try to dispel the stigma of disability. We demonstrate things like Tobii eye trackers, different kinds of switches. We show off even the Xbox adaptive controller, but also Sony's excellent access controller. We show different kinds of kit around accessibility. We show things like AAC boards. We demonstrate excellent uses of AI. For example, this is live caption running on a Samsung tablet, and it just runs and runs and runs. We show off the Google technology like Google Chrome and the browsers and the captions that are built in, or things like Chrome OS. We even get to show off things like my favorite feature, this thing called Guided Frame, where when you turn on TalkBack.
TalkBack on. Held volume keys. Top camera. Window home.
You could actually help yourself
Night sight.
take a selfie.
Switch to front. Take photo. Button. One face in frame. Move your phone left and down. Hold for photo. 3, 2, 1. Photo taken.
That's what we get to do.
That's our good friend Christopher Patnoe there from Google, telling us all about the ADC in London. What an amazing place. And, a great way to learn about Google accessibility and what Google is doing. And, of course, they're encouraging businesses to go in there and talk and learn about accessibility, but individuals as well. They're really trying to open up the conversation and let people know what is going on. And they're not afraid to mention the big piece of fruit as well, Apple. So they're quite happy to mention that as well as they go along, and mention other products, and really just showcase accessibility, which is wonderful.
Got an email here from Emma in Winnipeg that says, I know Mark is really into headphones. Can you clarify the difference between over-the-ear headphones and on-ear headphones for me, and suggest a good all-around option for me that I can use for music but also take calls? I love this question, Stephen. If you knew how many different types of headphones I have sitting around my office, it would actually probably make you a little bit jealous. But let me feel this one a bit, and feel free to interrupt me any time you want. So on-ear headphones are exactly kind of as they're listed. I'm holding the new Beats headphones right here, and they actually sit on top of your ear itself. It doesn't cup your ear like an over-ear headphone is. So it sits on your ear, puts a bit of pressure on the ear, which some people find a little bit uncomfortable after long amounts of uses. Now, when you're talking about over the ear, I've got the new Beats Studio Pro here. Again, very similar in design when you look at them side by side. One's a little bit bigger with bigger cups, which is what obviously is the difference. And those sit around the actual circumference of your ear. So it's not putting that pressure on your ear itself. Therefore, it's more comfortable. Plus, it creates that noise isolating seal as well. In terms of options, I mean, there are so many directions you can go with these. These are great options. I like Beats headphones. Some people find them to be a little bit too bassy. I do like to tweak mine with the EQ options, the equalization options under the music settings in the iPhone, which is pretty cool. Stephen, do you have a favorite in terms of headphones, whether on ear, over the ear, or something that you like to use and go to?
Well, one of the things because I often when I'm wearing headphones, I'm listening to a screen reader or something talking to me. So I kind of want to be able to be present in the room as well. I'm talking to people around me at the same time, or maybe I'm on a call, or maybe I'm outside. So as a result of that, I like this new design, which is kind of, I suppose you could call it over-ear. Essentially, we're talking about little hooks with headphones on them that go over your ear. They're standalone on their own. You put one in one ear and one over the other. And essentially, the speaker just sits on top of your ear. It doesn't go in your ear. It just essentially fires the audio into the ear canal. I'm actually holding right now a pair of rather cheap True-Free 01. Now, this is basically a very simple little design. As I say, you've got that little hook that goes over the ear, and then you have this tiny little thing, this tiny little speaker that goes over your ear. It does not go in your ear. So it means you can still hear what's going on, you can still be present, but you actually get really good audio. Now, these come from companies like Shokz. Anker do them as well. I opted for the cheapest version I could find, and it was True-Free 01, and they're actually pretty good. The bass response is good, the audio is good, and the microphone is actually pretty impressive as well. We often hear about bone conduction headphones, kind of similar idea. You would have heard of those from Shokz. I've often liked them, but the problem with those is they kind of tickle my cheeks, and I don't like that. So, I like these because they fire the audio into my ear, they're nice and clear, and I can have a good conversation with someone, and most importantly, hear what's going on around me at the same time.
I love it. I mean, that's analog on basically in transparency mode, right? You don't actually need microphones on board. It just does it automatically. Great question so far. Thank you, Emma. We'll definitely, hit us up if any of those options work for you. We're going to take a quick break, Stephen. We've got way more questions coming up, some comments on our YouTube channel as well. So do stick around. And if you want to get involved again, it is at Access Tech Live on all our socials. And you can email us feedback@accesstechlive.com as well.
There's more Access Tech Live to come. Get involved and have your say at Access Tech Live on social media. We'll be right back.